If you would like for us to return to a weekly episode release schedule, please click the Support the Show link in the show notes below to learn how you can help make that happen. And now, our next episode. Well, it's that time again. Here's your cosmic weather report for May 2025. Welcome to Evolving Humans, the podcast for awakening souls. I'm your host, Julia Marie. Settle in and get ready for another spirited conversation. Vibrational astrologer Michael Spremulli joins us again with the Cosmic Weather Report for May of 2025. Vibrational astrology is an evidence-based method, and Michael has years of experience with this modality. His website is blueridgeastrology.com. You know, this year's been flying by. It's been helpful to know what the vibrational waves have been. They really have been helpful to me. I'm looking forward to what you may have to say for this month, Michael, so welcome back.
Well, thanks so much, Julia Marie. Pleasure to be here, and I always have something to say.
This is true.
For better or worse. So
Yes.
Let's dive in. And as always, I always like to begin these by saying your mileage will vary depending on what's going on in your natal and vibrational charts. So this forecast is focusing on energies that are around and affecting the collective. Everyone will feel this energy to some extent, but what determines the intensity as to how much you feel it, again, goes back to what connects with your personal chart. So when we last were together, it was right around the time that we were talking about new and full moons. Obviously, we always talk about those every month. But in the last forecast, I gave a little taste of the new moon that was going to happen on April 27th. And by the time you're listening to this, you'll probably still be experiencing some of those effects. So I want to start there because astrology doesn't have start and stop lines. It overlaps and goes on continuously. So let's talk about this energy that happened in the new moon on April 27th, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. at 7 degrees of Taurus. So in vibrational astrology, the sign of Taurus, the energy that the research has confirmed that is associated with Taurus, is this natural, unflowing energy, not unfolding is what I meant to say, meaning Tauruses don't like to be rushed. Taurus literally wants to just kind of go with the flow. Yeah, it could mean some of those other things that, occasionally they may want to eat bonbons on the couch and have creature comforts and all those things. But ultimately, Taurus energy is about watching things unfold and then going with that flow. So I think it's important to also mention that this new moon on the 27th was the first that has happened post-eclipse season. So if the energy has been a little turbulent for you over the past couple of months, it's been that way for everyone because eclipses tend to shake things up a little bit. So no eclipse now. So we're talking about what you can expect. This new moons are about setting intentions, of course. It's a time to kind of clarify your focus. What are you committed to? Who are you loyal to? Who is it that needs your attention? That's kind of the energy of what's going on here as far as stepping back and looking at where you're allocating your resources. You may discover, I've been trying to put my efforts and attention in a particular direction, whether it's to help someone or something move forward, and maybe it's not quite working out. Well, maybe you need to reallocate that energy because there are times when we can end up chasing something that isn't meant to be. So how do we do that? Well, this is where we lean into that Taurus energy. And if you have a lot of Taurus placements in your chart, this will resonate even stronger with you. But the idea of Taurus is don't push. Don't push, because when we step back and watch things unfold, sort of like a flower doing its thing as it's emerging from the seed, and then a little stalk and little leaves, and then it starts to mature, you can't rush that. You just got to kind of watch it and see what happens. So you've got some of that energy going on during this new moon period. And remember, typically new moons, full moons, energy lingers for about a week or so, and then it kind of levels off. But during this time, you still have the ability to work with that energy. Now, I always look at what planets are aspecting during a new or full moon, because that energy also rings out over a longer period of time. So under the Taurus new moon, we have Venus, Saturn, and Neptune all aspecting at the same time. And this is about looking for sincerity in relationships and our ideas. So let me unpack that a bit. Whenever Saturn is involved, Saturn is like the taskmaster. It helps us focus on what is essential and gets rid of whatever is not essential. The reason Saturn sometimes gets a bad rap is because that Saturn by transit can take away our toys. It helps us focus on the critical stuff. So Saturn's in the middle of all this. And we have Venus and Neptune also attached. Well, Venus regulates our attraction to beauty, and Neptune regulates our pursuit of what is idealistic, magical, and dreamlike for us. So when we combine Saturn, Venus, and Neptune, the energy that gets associated with this new moon as we're planting our cosmic seeds is to look for the sincerity in both relationships and commitments, as well as ideas that we are pursuing. This is not the time to go after the glitz and glimmer. This is a time for substance. Saturn equals substance. So with this aspect of Saturn, Venus, Neptune, this is a time to be focused on what is the real deal. If you're an artist, are you creating true works of art that come from your soul, or are you copying other people? In the Neptune department, when you're pursuing what is magical for you, is it something that is very surface level? Well, I want to make a lot of money and I just really want to be a millionaire. Or is there some substance to it? I want to make a difference in the world, and maybe by doing that, I can make some money as well. There's nothing wrong with money, obviously, but it's focusing us on getting clear to what is pure and substantial in our lives, as opposed to getting distracted in things that are more surface level. So be thinking about what ideas, intentions, activities you want to start, and plant those seeds during the energy of this new moon. In addition, we have a Mars-Pluto opposition happening. Now, I was listening to some other astrologers last night saying, oh, it's going to be a lot of wild energy. Okay. I mean, you can basically say anything is going to be wild energy if you want, but we don't take that approach in VA. When you look at the meanings, Mars is action, Pluto is intense drive and determination. And when we put the two of those together, it actually ends up presenting as being driven by passion. So pushing very hard to achieve something, even if the rewards for succeeding might not be all that clear. That's a lot more useful, I think, of an interpretation compared to, well, it's going to be wild and crazy. Can there be wild and crazy elements? Sure. But the better way to, I think, at least, to frame this energy as far as how to utilize it is get focused on something that you're passionate about. This is not the time to regrout the bathroom tile. It's channel that energy into something where you're planting a cosmic seed that you're excited about, where you want to achieve something. And I often default to the business approach as something to build, but it's certainly not limited to that. This could be a time when you're wanting to clean up a city park that has been overrun by trees, and you want to make a place for families and people to go and hang out. Well, that's a passion project. Mars would bring the action to do that, and Pluto intensifies it. So anyways, we touched on this last month here. I went and did a whole deep dive on it again because I think it's important. I don't want you to miss energetic opportunities. So this is all rolling up under the new moon energy, which is still active while you're listening to this, at least in the early part of the month. On April 27th is when it kicked off, and you've got about a week or so of that energy to work with. All right, so now let's get into May. So May's full moon is happening on May 12th, 2025 at 12:55 p.m. at 22 degrees of Scorpio. New moons are a time to plant. Full moons are a time to harvest and let things come to completion. Harvest what we can, let go of what isn't working. Now, that cycle happens every month, and you always have, if you know nothing else about astrology, focus on the dates of the new and full moon, and that in and of itself can help give you some guidance as to when to take action versus when to reap rewards. So let's talk about Scorpio. In traditional astrology, Scorpio is often referred to as the sign of secrets and has a lot of things hidden beneath the surface. And okay, yeah, it could be some of that. But here's the VA definition. Scorpio likes to fuse with whatever it is that it is interacting with. So that could show up in a variety of different ways. Scorpios often like sports such as skating or mountain skiing. I don't know the right term because I've never been on a set of skis in my life. And the idea is those type of activities, and this is just a couple of examples, so insert your own in your mind here. They require you to fuse with the activity to be in the zone. You cannot be skiing down a mountain at however fast you go and have your head thinking about the grocery list and the laundry and all this other stuff, or you end up getting yourself killed. So that energy is what Scorpio is all about. It's fusing, it's melding with whatever it is that you're focused on. You can always tell a Scorpio when they're watching a movie because a fire alarm could go off and they're not going to move. They're just in it. They're fused, they're watching. It's almost like they become melded to whatever the experience is that they're dealing with. Surgeons, believe it or not, tend to have a lot of Scorpio placements because when they're in that zone, they cannot be distracted by anything else. Pagers, people screaming their name, unless it's related to the case. It's about getting in the zone. So this full moon is about being in the zone. Well, what zone are we talking about? I'm going to refer to this as the zone of intensity because that's what generally happens when we have a Scorpio full moon. Things are just a bit more intense, meaning you're going to feel them more pronouncedly. Now, notice I didn't say crazy, edgy, upheaval type of energy. Could it be those things? Sure, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is intensity, and intensity in and of itself does not equal negative or bad. So when this full moon happens on May 12th, my suggestion is going to be to just kind of sit back and watch what comes up. Because the intense feelings, they're going to present themselves to you. And when that happens, that's a time for us to take a little inventory. Because when Scorpio surfaces things for us to look at that are intense, and might shake us a little bit to our core, this is where we have the opportunity, especially during the full moon, to say, all right, is this still working? Yeah, it was intense for me to go all that time through my 4-year college degree, but boy, I made it out on the other side. And interestingly enough, this is just certainly anecdotal, but at the same point it's there, so I got to comment on it. Right around this full moon is when a lot of college graduations start to happen. So if you think about it, think about the full moon highlighting what has been a big focus or something you've been involved with. You've been working, let's say, for 4 years on your academic degree, or 5 years, or 6 or 7. People are on different plans. And it's like, finally, I can just let this go. And there's a lot of emotion during a graduation, and things come to a head. And it's like you've been fused to doing this work for so long, and now it's come to completion. So it's about looking at that, and it's like, if using the graduation example, I've done this. Okay, now I can move on and go get a job and go do something else and go do whatever I studied to do. So it's like that completion phase. Now, there are some planets also aspecting during this full moon, and it's the sun, moon, and Uranus. And this is creative, humorous, and inventive type of energy. And it helps us think in the moment and be in the moment. Uranus is focused on here and now. The moon brings up feelings and emotions, and then the sun also highlights what's going on at this moment. It puts things center stage. So the way I plan to approach this full moon is not worry about it too much, but pay attention. And that's important. Don't go looking for stuff, but see what comes up a couple of days before and about a week after to see what it is that we need to possibly reevaluate. Have we fused with things that we might need to separate from, i.e., a poor relationship, a poor job that has been sucking the life out of us, where we've shirked maybe other responsibilities. That's what I believe the message is under this Scorpio full moon, to get us to look, pause, reevaluate. The intensity gets high, so we can't ignore it. It's sort of like when you have a drip at the kitchen sink. You hear a little drip, I'll deal with it later. Drip, drip, I'll still deal with it later. Then you hear it start like a constant stream, and it's like, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. That's the energy of this Scorpio full moon, which again, May 12th, 2025, 12:55 p.m. at 22 degrees of Scorpio. All right, well, we're still talking moons because the way that the cycle's been running lately, we are getting a new moon at the end of May 26th, 2025 at 11:02 p.m. at 6 Gemini. Well, you know all about new moons because I talked about one just a few minutes ago. Time to plant some more seeds. Well, what type of seeds are we planting? Well, Gemini is about curiosity. It is about looking at things from many different perspectives. It's idea generation. So when we see Gemini getting activated, this is the time to start exploring all sorts of different things. Doesn't mean that you're going to land on the ultimate solution, but Gemini is this whole idea of curiosity and wanting to turn over the rocks to see what's underneath them. So if you've been thinking about some sort of venture, whatever it may be, whether it's changing where you bank, figuring out where you're going to move to, looking at something from a different perspective, this new moon can help kick that off beautifully. And we always have to look at what planets are involved. Well, we've got Sun, Moon, Mercury all sitting conjunct inside of Gemini, very, very small orb, which in English means it's very powerful. So what are these planets about? Well, these planets are about being a good listener, because the moon, when Mercury is involved with it, enables us to connect to people's emotions. So we're not only being encouraged to be curious about tasks and things that we have to accomplish or directions we want to head in, but we want to be looking at listening to others and seeing what they have got to say, because we can get information in a bunch of different ways. We could get it from the divine source through spirit. We could get it from reading something in a magazine or online. We could get it from people who are having conversations with us. So we got to be open to all of these things during this new moon and lean into the Sun Moon Mercury conjunction that enables easy communication. And it's a time when you can ultimately share concerns with people who you're speaking with. It's not necessarily just a time to listen, it can be a time to speak. And because of the placements of the planets, the collective should be a bit more open, at least for a while, of hearing others, people's perspective on a situation, as opposed to, this is what I'm thinking, I'm running to my corner, and that's it. You're not going to change my mind. Now, something else that I want to mention is bumping up there. It's a little bit further out of the orb, but you also have Jupiter also in Gemini. So we've got 4 planets in Gemini on this new moon. Well, Jupiter's about expansion, and it makes things big. So if we put all of that energy together, Sun, Mercury, Moon, Jupiter, this could be an excellent opportunity to expand horizons, both literally and figuratively, because the energy of this new moon is about looking at things from a different perspective, a bigger perspective than what it is that we normally would operate from. So during this new moon, I think it's a time to plant some seeds based on feedback that we're getting from wherever you're getting it from. Expect a lot more communication around this full moon, new moon rather, because with Mercury's involvement and Jupiter, there's a lot of communication in both directions. So if we can be tuned into that, it can help spark some ideas and then give us some direction as to what might make sense as far as our next step or plan of action. And just as a recap, again, new moon, May 26, 2025 at 11:02 p.m., happening at 6 degrees of Gemini. And for those of you who are listening who know your chart, as I'm giving these degree positions, if you have planets that are placed in or around those degrees, expect that to connect with you even more intensely because it will get activated during that time period. All right. So from a vibrational perspective, we've got a couple of things going on. It's a relatively quiet month. In fact, we've got a holdover that's been around for a while, which we'll talk about. And then we got a couple of other vibrations that are active here. But unlike February, where there were multiple things happening inside of the 13th vibration for really long swaths of time, we don't see that much vibrationally speaking for May. And that's okay. Not every month is loaded with stuff. So here we go. The first vibration we're going to talk about is the first vibration, which is the natal. It's sort of like where everything starts. It's vibration 1. And this is like raw building blocks. Things that happen in the first vibration set the stage for other things to be built upon. But there isn't an overriding message in the first vibration other than, here's what you got, now go do something with it. So in the first vibration, we have Venus, Saturn, and Neptune active from May 1st through May 16th, which is 16 days. Pretty long run. Well, this should sound familiar because we talked about it last month, because it was going all through April and maybe even a little bit back in March. So this cycle's been running. We're pretty much at the halfway point at this juncture as we're recording this, and the energy should be alive and kicking in your experience. So what is the energy? Well, this is all about looking for sincere commitments in romantic relationships. Now, wait a minute. Didn't I mention Saturn, Venus, and Neptune just a little while ago? I believe I did. So that was happening under the new moon back on April 27th. Well, guess what? These same 3 planets are aspecting in in the first vibration, and it's like a double whammy because those planets were conjunct before in the new moon, and now we're getting them showing up in the vibration as well. This is going back to everything I said during that new moon. I'm not going to belabor that too much here, but it's figure out what's real. Saturn makes things real in relationships and pursuits of magic. Hopefully you're working with this. This energy's been around a long time, and the benefit of longer cycles is you have more time to make hay while the sun shines. So you got about 16 days to wrap up this whole idea of figuring out what is important to you. What does real love look like? Real commitment, real magic that goes beneath the surface and actually hits you at a core cellular and soulful level. So this vibration wraps up again on May 16th. It's been going for about a month or so. So you got a bit more time to put that into practice until it moves on. Now, another vibration that is active is, or another planetary combination, still in the first vibration, is Sun, Mercury, Uranus, and that's active from May 20th to May 30th. So you got 11 days of this cycle. Not a tremendously long cycle, but enough for it to show up and have an impact on us. So still first vibration, all the definition that I said for that applies, but the planets obviously change. And Sun, Mercury, Uranus brings in the ability to have quick reflexes. It's like a supercharged event that enables you to think on your feet, learn quickly, come up with clever and ingenious ideas. Here's the challenge, though. During this time frame, from May 20th through the 30th, you may be inclined to jump around a bit. Oh, well, I could do this, and I can go here, and I could do that. That's Uranus interacting with Mercury, giving you lots and lots of ideas, which is cool, but you got to have some patience and discipline along with it. Because if you just have a bunch of ideas and then don't execute, well, nothing's going to happen. However, this idea of being able to learn quickly, make connections quickly, logically, this is a good time to lean into projects that require anything of a technical component, troubleshooting, refining of things, because you have the spontaneity of Uranus on your side to be able to do some firefighting and put out the fire where it may be raging the hottest. And it's not just going to be willy-nilly based on emotion, it's based on Mercury. And the sun, of course, focuses the spotlight on things so that we're able to really see what's happening front and center. So I would use this time period, May 20th through the 30th, for anything that requires ingenuity, some absorbing of new skills. Maybe you have something new that you need to learn that is related to your career, or just, you bought a new piece of equipment for the home theater and you got to figure out how to work with that. Those type of activities should be very, very easy to flow under these planets because of the way that the energy is going to coalesce around them. So take advantage of this time to process, learn, and tap into your ingenuity. All right, one more vibration here, and this one is a little shorter, but it's still around long enough for me to comment for our purposes here. And we're back in the 13th vibration, which has to do with mission and calling. So I had a conversation with someone via email, a friend of mine, and they follow astrology and what I do and stuff that I put out online. But they had a question. They said, help me understand this vibration thing, because I think I get it, but I'm not quite sure. So I'll take a moment now to talk about that. When we move beyond the base vibration of 1, and you start getting to the primes like 5, 8, 7, 11, 13, etc., think of each vibration as sort of being an arena where you have certain energy at play. It's just in the arena right there. But then we have planetary configurations that enter the arena. You're going to see a couple of things happen. You're going to see the energy from those planets play out, but you also get the overlay of what the vibrational energy is bringing to the party. So the 13th vibration is about purpose, our calling and mission in life, where we feel compelled to do something better than anyone else, not from an ego perspective, but it's just that feeling of this is what I've been put on this earth to do. Now, that's part of it, but then we need to look at the planets to see exactly what's going on that is going to be wrapped around this energy of mission and calling. And I'm not sure I gave the dates here. So that's from May 13th through May 20th. It goes for about 8 days. And the planets that are involved are Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune. I love this combination, especially because it's in the 13th vibe, because it's about expansion, it's about living in the now, and it's focusing on what's magical. So let me break it down. Jupiter makes things really, really big. It expands whatever it touches. Well, Uranus helps us focus in the moment, current situation, not being distracted by past or future. And Neptune regulates what is magical and idealistic for us. So when you put all this energy together inside of the 13th vibration, this is a time when you can be successful in a new vision, bringing something new to the world. And sometimes people, when they hear the word vision, will think, I don't know what vision I have. People think that vision is related to CEO or limited to CEOs and heads of state and heads of religions. Every one of us has a vision. It could be as small as what your plans are for the day, to vision that out, the week, the month, what have you. We're not talking about things that are out of reach here. Everyone has a vision. You have a vision. If you're listening to this, it's just going to be different from anyone else's. It could be grand in scale. It could be smaller in scale, but everyone's got a vision as to how to navigate life. So the idea of this energy in the 13th vibration, which helps us differentiate ourselves and focus in on that calling, this is a time when that new vision can catch other people's attention and imagination. And success and fulfillment is a natural byproduct of that. Now, this new vision might involve something exotic because Jupiter's involved. So a new place, theater, art, something that is different, maybe outside the scope of who and what you are, but it's not necessarily limited to that. The idea with this 13th vibe helps us tap in to where we want to expand. And, and when you have a shorter transit, like a week, these don't instantly change your life, but they bring things up for us to focus on. And if we think about the past month, I'll break this down to a very small time interval. There have been things that we've thought about. It's like, okay, I got to get this on my radar. We may not have solved or completed that issue or task at that moment, but the fact that it gets on the radar then brings it into existence for us to be able to start working on it. So that's how I look at these type of shorter transits, where it surfaces for us things to focus on. And in this case, with the 13th vibe, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, it's what is our mission, our purpose, our calling that is going to really resonate with us at a personal level, that's Neptune, and really expand out and grow some legs and have an impact beyond ourselves. And that, Julia Marie, is what is happening for the month of May 2025.
Well, I'm almost relieved to hear that it's a quieter month. And as a Scorpio, I really appreciate vibrational astrology's assessment of Scorpio energy. It actually really resonates with me.
So let me ask you a question. I appreciate you sharing that. How does this definition, and I know it's going to sound like, well, I'm trying to say VA is better. That's not my approach. It's not what I'm going after here. But your traditional definitions of Scorpio is, oh, they're secretive and they're, don't cross a Scorpio or they're going to sting you, etc. Comparing that traditional definition of a Scorpio to the VA version, how does the VA version differ, and does it fit better or less better? And I want you to be honest. I don't want you to tell me something that isn't true, because remember, every data point we get, we use it to build and refine our models. So how does that flesh out for you?
Well, it feels more accurate, a description of like who I am as a person. I do tend to get lost in whatever it is I'm engaged with. So that pattern serves me well when I'm doing things like channeling or mediumship.
Sure,
It's
absolutely.
really good for that.
Yeah, I would say so.
Not so good when it comes to, hey, it's time to clean the house instead of watch a movie
Right,
or read a book.
right.
So that's where the challenge is in the 3D world. But
Sure.
as a Scorpio, I do tend to be able to hold a secret. That is something that I do. So that part is right.
Yep.
But just the way the traditional description is put out there, it seemed a little harsh.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because remember, VA is energy based. We focus on the underlying energy processes. So let's talk about the holding a secret just for a second. When
Okay.
you think about it, yeah, that certainly can happen. And Scorpios can be good secret keepers. Why? Because they fuse with everything. So it always goes back to the energy. If someone is fusing with a secret, either something they don't want the world to know, or someone gives them information and they say, sit on this, don't tell anyone, a Scorpio's natural tendency is to fuse with it.
Exactly.
So that's the energy. The energy can express itself in a whole bunch of different ways. You can fuse with the movie or the book or channeling or what have you. And it really kind of gets to the core of the energetic process at play, which is, I had a person who had a lot of Aquarius in their chart, and traditional astrology says, well, you're involved with technology and new advancements and what have you. And well, that could be part of it. That didn't land at all for this person. I said, try this definition on for size. Aquarians often want to be part of the network and consider everyone having an equal part where no one is superior or inferior. Everyone has a role to play, almost like a chain of dominoes where one is connected to the next. I said, how does that land compared to the traditional definition? And they said, now that sounds spot on. So when you look at that connectivity piece, yes, certainly that could lead in some situations people to gravitate toward technical fields or places where new discoveries are being made because of that collaboration. But it's just a different approach to looking at this stuff, and obviously it works for me because I'm a vibrational astrologer.
Well, I have an Aquarian moon, so thanks for that little tidbit.
Well,
Because
I'm just landing with you left and right today.
I am certainly not technologically savvy, so
Mhm.
that doesn't land with me.
But well, let me ask you this, since you shared this. So the Aquarian moon is feelings, emotions, history. That is probably something that is front and center with you as far as making sure that the feelings of everyone have a place at the table. Inclusivity as opposed to exclusivity. Is that more resonant with you as far as how that Aquarian moon shows up in your world?
Oh, yeah, it very definitely is. Makes more sense to me. You know, Michael, you might want to consider doing a special presentation on traditional astrology descriptions versus VA descriptions of the signs. Just saying.
That's actually not a bad idea, and I will make a note here. Thank you for that, because I haven't done that yet. I mean, I
You're
reference it
welcome.
when it comes up. Yes, I see new ideas coming at you, and we haven't even got underway yet with these new moons and full moons. Well, I take that back. The Taurus full moon, because we're recording this a few days before the beginning of the month. See what unfolds. Classic example. There it is. Have I thought about that before? Yeah, probably with 100 other thoughts, but now it's surfaced. So maybe it's time for me to pay attention. That's how you use this astrology. It is not fatalistic or deterministic. It's about recognizing what comes up
And going with the flow.
and going with the flow.
It's been a great conversation. Before we close, Michael, please tell the people how they can connect with you.
Sure. If you visit blueridgeastrology.com, that's blueridgeastrology.com, you can learn about classes that I'm offering. I do a deep dive into all the vibrations. I do that every Saturday, the first Saturday of every month. You can get information to register there and also discover my other offerings as far as one-on-one consultations, as well as astrological reports, all at blueridgeastrology.com.
Once again, it's been wonderful having you on.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Well, that's our time for today. I'm grateful to each of you for your continued support of Evolving Humans. If you derive value from this episode, please share it with 2 other people so that together we can bring more light to this world. If you need guidance on a current life situation, want to reconnect with a loved one in spirit, or receive an energy healing, go to juliamarie.us and click the Book Now button on the homepage to make your appointment.